I call the member for Murray.
I thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. On behalf of the electorate of Murray, I want to participate in this motion moved by our Prime Minister, Mr Abbott, which expresses condolences for all of those who were affected directly by this siege in Sydney and Martin Place. The 16th of December 2014 will be deeply etched in the memories of families, particularly those who lost Tori Johnson and Katrina Dawson, but also the other families who are no doubt still suffering extreme anxiety and distress, having been one of the 17 who were taken hostage, but also, of course, the families of the police who were wounded in that siege. I'm particularly pleased to speak on behalf of Murray because we are an extraordinary place. We have one of the most multicultural communities outside any capital city. In particular, we have a lot of Islamic communities and refugees. And in response to this appalling situation in Martin Place, where a man claiming to be a Muslim cleric, a madman in fact, an evil person, who had a long criminal record, who'd been granted political asylum in Australia, literally committed the most heinous offences, violent offences, hoping no doubt to cause a real tension and reaction in the Australian public. So there was hatred or vilification between different faith groups. Now, I want to stress that as a consequence of that terrible event, some of our young multicultural youth communities in the Goulburn Valley got themselves together and they said, we've got to make sure that we can demonstrate from our small rural regional community in northern Victoria that while we are Islamic, we're Christian, we're Sikhs, we're Buddhists, we're a whole range of people of faith, and we're people who have no faith at all, that we live in harmony and tolerance with one another. And so, in particular, our Kasem Youth Organisation organised what we called the Shepparton Twilight Vigil. And it occurred just a few nights after this siege. It was prompted, of course, by the terrible siege itself, but also it was a response to the Facebook posting from Rachel Jacobs, who'd noticed a Muslim woman taking off her headscarf when she was riding in public transport, and clearly worried, nervous about a reaction from the public. She'd taken her headscarf off just hours after the siege. So Ms Jacobs had said to her, I'll be with you. I'll accompany you so you're safe. So our young Shepparton people said, let's celebrate that tolerance and that loving friendship, but also at the same time, let's pay our respects to the victims of that terrible siege in Sydney. And so our Twilight Vigil took place in partnership with, as I said, the Kasem Youth Organisation, which is a young group of Muslim youth. It was in partnership with the Greater Shepparton City Council, the Ethnic Council of Shepparton District, which of course includes members and representatives from our African nations, from the Middle East, our islander communities, and some of our older migrant communities from Europe. They were also joined by the youth group Word and Mouth and the Victorian Police. Now, the night was kind to us. We had an extraordinarily beautiful, peaceful evening. We joined around the big lake in the centre of Shepparton, and each person took a candle. They walked around the lake shore in family groups, arm in arm with people they hadn't perhaps met for a long time, or some that they hadn't met before. Having walked right round the lake, having put our flowers in front of the special podiums that had been arranged, there are a number of speeches. And there were speeches from the Kasem Youth Organisation itself, from the Mayor, the City of Greater Shepparton, from another councillor from the City of Greater Shepparton himself, Muslim background, and from Albania originally. There were the most impassioned and significant speeches made, all of them talking about the incredible tolerance that we extend in our community, the loving care we have for one another, and the fact that the most important thing is who we are in our community, not what we are or where we're from, or where we happen to practice our faith, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday night or in no place at all. I have to say that I was so proud looking around the big crowd of hundreds of people there, many of them, of course, in traditional cultural dress. Now, it's a fact that in Shepparton, even though perhaps you're in the Turkish community and you came to Australia 3 generations ago, you will still be wearing your traditional dress because no one insists or expects you to wear anything different. And so we had people in Sikh traditional cultural dress, we had people in different dress of the Hazara from Pakistan and Afghanistan, people from Iraq, Jordan, Iran. We had our islanders, and of course the whole of the evening began with an indigenous local wonderful man playing the didgeridoo. It was an extraordinary evening, very moving evening. And one of the very special things about that evening was that what we were trying to say was that an act of an evil madman, like this person in Sydney who took it upon himself to kill, who wanted, no doubt, to make a big name for himself as a martyr, that he in fact had no impact on a community like ours, and in fact on the broader Australian society. That in fact what he did was bring us closer together. It gave us an opportunity to demonstrate how we might have come from all over the globe. So many people like him have been granted political asylum in a small community like the Shepparton and Marupna in the Goulburn Valley, but we don't take that peace and security for granted, and we're going to work at it. And so it was so special that it was particularly the Kasem Youth Organisation that were the key organisers, the first to begin this idea and to lead the ceremony we had around the foreshore of our lake. Ali Al-Bayata said of the event, he was one of the key Kasem Youth Organisation members, he said of the event that we want to stress that this is for all people, all different beliefs and cultures. We want the community to come together. We want to demonstrate to people in Australia and all over the world that we stand together and we're here for each other. And that was done very symbolically and very beautifully through this Twilight Vigil. And just a couple of nights ago, before Parliament was sitting, it was the Friday, it was about 9 o'clock in Shepparton, just on dusk. And it was remarkable to me as I saw this a middle-aged woman in her traditional Middle East dress. She's probably from Iraq, I'd say, and she had very conservative, dark, full-length clothing on, and she was walking up the street, which was deserted pretty much on this Friday evening. And the thing that was so remarkable to me was, one, she was in her full traditional dress, proudly walking along, but she was alone. She was totally alone, and obviously she felt totally secure, in no way threatened. She was simply going about her business just on dusk, walking up the main street of Shepparton. And I thought, well, this is our country. She didn't have to worry about taking off her scarf or her long, full-length clothing. She didn't have to worry about having a different colour. She was perfectly secure and safe in our community, and may it always be like that. So, again, I repeat, on behalf of my electorate of Murray, on behalf of all of my communities, my 3 mosques in Shepparton, my mosque in Cobram, the Sikh temple in Shepparton, the various Christian churches that we have, our Islander community, special churches, we say we are all one, and we also acknowledge those who don't go to a church at all. We're all one. The key thing is that we care for one another, we are tolerant, and we look to what individuals can contribute to our great nation. We look to how they care for their families, how they obey the rule of law in our country, how they set about to make sure that no one is prosecuted or persecuted simply because they have come from a different place or they espouse a different religion to their own. So I think this is a very important motion, and I'm very proud and pleased to commend it, and also to commend my great community in Northern Victoria.
I thank the member for Murray.